All right, it's recording.
Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. No, I'm just playing.
What is up? This is the War Dog, and we've got Reggie.
From Regie Collects. Yeah, man.
Come on, John. Let me finish at least.
I'm sorry. You know how it is, man. We're just rolling with it today, man. I figure we're letting him do the intro.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Too.
It's awesome. We got Reggie from Regie Collects. John, why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about? I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, man. Me too. Me too. Well, Reggie, thank you so much for joining us, man. I want to get right in it with you, man. Your introduction has always been one of those things that, I mean, let's be real here, it draws people in. I personally cannot think of two worlds that may be more diametrically opposed than comic books and bodybuilding. Explain that to me, if you, in a nutshell. Well,
yeah.
How does that work, man?
Yeah, so what I will say first is that I was really inspired by Alex the Comic Hoarder. This dude used to do, and he still does, this wonderful intro to his channel where he would like introduce himself and then he would touch the screen or like cover the mic. I thought it was phenomenal. And I was like, I have to come up with something that is memorable. And like the struggle was real. And so I wanted to come up with something that was differentiating, that was unique to me, that felt natural. And so I am still a professional bodybuilder in the IFBB, and I turned pro at the end of 2016. And so I am super passionate about bodybuilding, even though I don't lift as much as I used to. I'm more dad bod now than bodybuilder, but I'm still an IFBB pro, and I love comics. And so when I stopped competing at the end of 2017, my wife said to me, "You need a hobby." And she's like, "You should go back to collecting comics, which is something that you say you enjoy." And so I started collecting comics again. I was still working out at the time, and I started to do a YouTube channel. I'm like, how can I bring these two things together? And I had an epiphany. I came up with that intro, and it stuck. And what I've realized is, yes, they seem to be very different, but there are actually a lot of comic book people that are into fitness. And I've seen it, I've heard it as the channel has grown to where it is right now.
Right on, man. Yeah, like you say, I know that's one of those stereotypical things. You know what I mean? You imagine somebody to be a comic book nerd, and you imagine them a certain way in a lot of cases. And that's the thing I love about comic books the most, though, is it brings us all together. I'm going to just go off on a quick, slight little tangent. Bueller did this interview with Neil Adams and posted it today, and phenomenal. I loved it, regardless of whether anybody agrees with anything Neil Adams has to say about politics or not. But the thing that I love the most about it is comic books brings everybody together. We gotta, what's that?
Or it should, I think theoretically it could and it should, but sometimes, there's fractures and stuff like that. But that's why I'm always talking about, let's just have some fun,
Right. And I know that he's going to be dropping a part 2 here fairly, I think tomorrow at some point. And that part 2 is going to be comics. So, like you say, it's one of those deals to me that it never ceases to amaze me, the people that I've become friends with through social media and through our YouTube channel, people that we've got to interview, that, man, in everyday walk of life, chances are really high I would have never met Todd, who lives in Atlanta. You live out on the West Coast, and I'm in Springfield, Missouri. That kind of it blows my mind, but it brings us all together that way. Man, that's it just speaks to the medium of comic books, I guess.
Yep. I mean, I did a video on like the power of comics, and it is a very powerful means to bring people together. And if you look at what's happened with, to your point, social media with YouTube, you are allowed to see all of the interconnected nature of the hobby, right? I literally talk to people around the world every single day, all day. There are fans of comics everywhere, and I get DMs, I get direct messages, I get emails, I get comments, I get tags, literally from around the world. People that I probably will never ever meet in person, I have been able to have a dialogue with. I actually recorded a video for a classroom in the UK. There is a teacher in the UK that is a subscriber of the channel. He reached out to me and he said, would you record a video talking about social media and comics for my class? And so I had an opportunity to talk to a class in the UK, and a couple of them actually responded to me. That's incredible, all because of comics.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. One of my favorite commissions I've ever had done was by a guy by the name of Frank Uzan in Tel Aviv. He penciled it and lined it, and then I sent it to a friend of mine in the UK to color it, and then came to me. And my kids are looking at the tube that it came in. They're like, "Hang on, Dad, they're like, really?" I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's the power of social media and comic books and just the overall love of it. And it was just the story of its transit from one place to the next is amazing to me. You know, and there's so many different stories like that about that, like I say, comics bringing people together, things that are wild that you would never dream of. If you told a 13-year-old me flipping through my first Venom comic book, and it was actually Spirits of Venom, that crossover they did with Ghost Rider and Venom and Spider-Man, great 4-part mini story inside of that. Anyway, never in a million years would you have ever been able to convince me that I would be talking with people on YouTube about comic books or getting a commission like that or any of that stuff. It just like, it blows teenage nerd mind me away. It does. You know, so one other thing I was going to bring up, and this is something else that I want to get some backstory from you on, is you have a hashtag Gibbon Gang. That's another one. I want a little bit of backstory on this, because I got about this much understanding on it, and I want you to share that with us.
Yeah, so the Gibbon Gang is very much an organic creation. So what happened was that I'm on this mission to get every issue of Amazing Spider-Man from 1 to 801. That is my mission. And I'm really focused on 1 through 261. And I'm 2 issues short of completing that portion of the run, right? And so at one point I pick up Amazing Spider-Man 110, and I think I might have been doing a live stream, and I actually show Amazing Spider-Man 110, which is one of the last issues that Stan Lee actually wrote. It was not the last, it is one of the last.
Right.
And I made an offhanded comment about what is a Gibbon anyway? Because across the bottom it said, Marvel's next superstar, the Gibbon, or something like that. And I was like, what is a Gibbon anyway? I put it off to the side. I continue with the live stream. And then I proceeded to get messages from people. Like, a Gibbon is an ape that resembles man. Like, people were like sending me comments to tell me what not the Gibbon character was, but what an actual Gibbon was. Like, someone sent me a Jane Goodall video clip where she talked about what Gibbons were. And, you know, it started out as an offhanded comment that kind of morphed into an inside joke on the channel. Like, at one point, my internet would be bad, and people would say, it's the Gibbon. The Gibbon's ruining the live stream. The Gibbon's not holding the antenna upright. You know, I would talk about Thanos or what's coming after Thanos, and people would say, it's the Cosmic Gibbon. I mean, it has really just become an inside joke with the channel. And so part of it was I wanted to, you know, give life to it and allow people that wanted to have fun with it to have fun with it. So I posted up on my community tab, what do we call this thing? And we were originally planning, there was like a vote where people like put in what they thought the hashtag would be, and we did a vote, and Gibbon Gang turned out to be what we what we called it. So now what you'll see, if you're on Instagram, if you search for hashtag Giving Gang, you will see dozens of photos of people with Amazing Spider-Man 110 and sometimes even 111. So
that's awesome. That's
great.
awesome. And that's something else that speaks to the power of social media and comic books combined there. We have, through our Facebook group that me and Todd help admin, a hashtag, and the group's a couple years old, and we were trying to come up with something. It was almost a little tongue in cheek, because at the time everybody was doing their city or their region strong, hashtagging it that way, and it was feeling like it was a little overused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as originally with Boston Strong and stuff like that, that was serious and that was legit. But then you started seeing it just pop up everywhere. Well, a little tongue in cheek, we throw out Corner Strong. A couple of the admins do. The community latched onto it and took it very seriously, and we're like, we didn't mean it serious, but it's serious now. And so, you know, like I hear guys talk about acts of kindness and stuff like that, AOKs and stuff like that, and we call them care packages or whatever, and it's always hashtag Corner Strong with us. And it's starting to morph into, I know you're over on Instagram and stuff, and we're starting to venture in that way a little bit. A much different medium than Facebook, to me anyway, and I'm still kind of figuring that out myself. But and it's interesting to see how some of these things take on a life of their own that way. You know, that's just my opinion on it. Todd, do you remember that hashtag coming to life? Was that something you remember really, or is that too far back in your memory banks?
It's probably too far back in my memory banks. I just make funny videos most of the time. You know, one of the questions that I wanted to ask Reggie, and we all have our kids' stories about collecting comics, and I'm just curious about yours. Like for me, I grew up in Buffalo, and so I had to ride my bike through the snowstorms sometimes, you know, where I'd have to like kind of push off of the snowbanks just to get down the street. I'm just curious what your comic book story is, if you wouldn't mind sharing it with us.
Yeah. So that sounds like a very Buffalo thing to do right there. That little breakdown.
It's totally.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan. Most of my younger years were spent in the city of Detroit, and then high school I was in the suburbs, Oak Park specifically. And I honestly don't remember what my first exposure was to comics. I have some remembrances of like Plastic Man and Hulk as some of those early things that I was exposed to. But my most strongest and vivid memories were really in like the junior high, right into high school, those first couple of years. I literally used to ride my bike. I mean, it had to be 5 miles, if not more, to the local comic shop that was right up the street. My mother didn't necessarily support or understand comics. My grandmother used to take me to the comic shop and stuff like that, but my mother didn't quite understand it. So if I wanted comics, I had to jump on my bike and go get them. And so I had a little job. I would make a little money. I would go buy comics. And I would come home from that trip. It's nice and sweaty because it's a long ride and it's humid in Michigan. And I would go down into my basement bedroom and literally just read the comics. I would immerse myself and read them cover to cover. And then I was always the kid that wanted to take care of the things that I owned. So I always bagged and boarded for the most part. Sometimes I made my own boards out of like scrap, you know, but everything was almost always bagged and boarded. And many of the books that are here in the room actually were purchased back in the day on that bicycle ride to, I think it was Ferndale is where I had to go.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Mine was about 5 miles too, and yeah, Buffalo was humid at times too. So you were in Detroit. Were you were an athlete, I assume, because
Nope.
your body. No,
Nope.
but Barry Sanders.
Well, I was never really an athlete. I played some sports. I ran track in high school, but I was always tall and lanky and not the most coordinated. So no, I was not an athlete. I did not get into bodybuilding until my 30s. This is much later in life. But yeah, what's funny is I actually met Barry Sanders at Lions Stadium. I was going into the bathroom. He was coming out of the bathroom, high top fade, long trench coat, and black boots. Barry Sanders, that was my one exposure to him in Detroit.
Wow, that's actually kind of funny that you said that, because I was at the Atlanta airport, and Ed Reed is a Hall of Fame safety.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm walking into the bathroom, and I look up, and there's this big dude, and I knew I'd seen his face so many times. I was on Monday Night Football. I was like, "Holy shit, it's Ed Reed!" Both of our arms went up, and we slapped five. We did the old shoulder bump, and I mean, it was one of the happiest experiences of my life. But so it's kind of funny that you met him in the bathroom. It's kind of funny telling people that you met a football player in the bathroom. But
yeah, man, it is what it is, brother.
Hey, yeah.
The only thing that Ed Reed tells about that story is I high-fived this guy, and I really was hoping he washed his hands. That's how Ed Reed tells that story. Okay,
Well
just so everybody's clear, Ed Reed has a version of that story too. Sorry, that's bad, Todd. I shouldn't do that to you.
That's
man.
okay. That's okay. I take the hits.
I got to respect my elders. I'm sorry. Oh man, so man, it's been a good show here. I want to talk about one other thing, and this is something that I kind of came to the realization again, quite literally today. I'm doing some social media work and stuff, and just getting out and talking with some folks through social media and whatever. And it came to my mind, you're affiliated with GoCollect. They kind of help you out with some of your videos and stuff like that. And just recently, we on the Collector's Corner are directly affiliated and sponsored with CLZ Comics, and CLZ just dropped an update, and they're using GoCollect information, and I'm like, man, that's like it's almost like it was meant to be that we'd have you on here so you can kind of talk to us about GoCollect some, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as familiar with GoCollect, but we've been working with CLZ kind of informally for years now, so I kind of got the ins and outs of CLZ down. How does explain some of that with GoCollect and some of the value that they give to collectors?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of GoCollect, to be honest with you, and I'm a fan of theirs not necessarily because they sponsor aspects of the channel, because I started using the service long before I actually had a relationship with them. I dig them because of the service and the value that they actually offer, right? When I started trying to buy and sell comics, I knew I needed like a price guide, and I knew a print price guide just wasn't the way to go, right? Because it's out of date. As soon as it's printed, it is out of date. And so you need something that's more dynamic. And I tried to use GPA, and I found that site messy, and I found it to be really confusing. And that's not, I mean, it's not necessarily criticism. It is a reflection of what my experience was. And I was never really able to find what I needed. And I also thought it was somewhat expensive. And again, this was a couple of years ago when I just come back into the hobby. It seemed expensive to me. I actually found a couple of other services that were out there. And then I started getting into the graded comics. And so I found GoCollect. And what's great about GoCollect is they actually do not just CGC books, but they also do CBCS as well. So you actually can get the two leading grading companies, get the values, the FMVs for directly from GoCollect. And I think that's cool. The one thing that GoCollect doesn't do is raw books. And so I wish that they did do raw books, but they have decided that they're going to focus on graded books because it removes some of the subjectivity from the evaluation. right? The grade is what the grade is, and they
Mhm.
view both CBCS and CGC as the same thing, right? With a
Right.
raw book, there's that subjective thing of, well, what is the grade? Who graded it? How accurate was it? If it's graded, it has a number, or yeah, it has a number, so it's good. So their website is streamlined, it's clean. They give me the two leading grading companies' values, which I think is great. The other thing that I really like about their service is that I'm actually able to log or catalog my slabs. And so I can take a photo of the slab, the front and the back. I can scan, not really scan, but type in the CGC number, and it sucks in from the database a lot of the data for the book in terms of the grade, the page quality, that kind of stuff. And then you can put notations in there. How much did I pay for the book? Where did I get it from? All that kind of stuff. And you can actually run a report. And the
Right.
report will show you, what did you pay for that book? What is the current FMV? And what is the overall value of your entire collection? For insurance purposes, I thought that was extremely helpful. And that's one of the main reasons why I ended up going with them, was because I needed to get insurance and I needed a way to value it, and they offered that to me. So
Yeah, right on. And honestly, kind of the way you said with GoCollect, it's the same way we were with CLZ. Was we were all using the product already, and it kind of seemed to be a no-brainer to reach out to them and say, hey, look, we have people that would be interested in your product. And so, like, for instance, we get a discount, and this is something that has recently come back up because it's gone to a subscription service. We get a 33% discount for the yearly subscriptions for
nice.
CLZ, which is really nice. And like you say, being able to pull that information in from GoCollect has
Yep.
been one of the biggest additions to the new service. You know, it's funny, we allow Alwyn to come on and basically give public service announcements for updates coming. Hey, these give me, kind of get some feedback from our group. And one of the guys is like, I really just want to do a spreadsheet and take my own pictures and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, you realize there's an old saying, don't reinvent the wheel. I'm like, you're a writer, you know this. Don't reinvent the wheel, man. Come on. And he's like, well, it's just what works for me. And I'm like, well, and I've heard you say this, collect what you love. We kind of collect what you love, collect how you collect. We're in that way, everybody gets the most enjoyment out of it. And that's kind of how that conversation ended. Was, if you want to do it that way, go ahead. I've given you my opinion on it, but you do you, man, because at the end of the day, that's what works for you. Go right ahead. But anyway, that's something else where, like you say, watching videos of yours and stuff like that, it has been something where it's like almost like sliding from our Facebook group over into YouTube. And I'm finding a lot of the community on YouTube being the same way, as far as collect what you love. We're going to give you a little bit of spec advice if people are asking for spec advice, that kind of thing. But definitely, it's more about collect what you love.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, it's not my place to tell a grown person how to collect or how to spend their money. That's just not how I operate. Because for me, I don't like when people give me unsolicited advice,
Right.
So in my videos, I talk a lot about, here's some things for you to consider. Here's some things for you to think about. Here's some things that I do, but you should decide what's right for you. Because at the end of the day, the individual collector is the only person that really knows what's right. And so my thing is, I want to give people some things to think about as they figure out what's best for them. But it's never about me pushing my agenda. Like, I like GoCollect, but I also like comicspriceguide.com, right? And I use both of them. And it's not my job to tell you, use this one, don't use this other one. It's more about, here's my experience and you decide. I've heard great things about CLZ. Like, I did I've done a couple of live streams and videos on different apps and different ways to catalog one system. And that's one that repeatedly comes up as one that folks really, really like. And so you may know this better than I. Because I actually announced this integration about 2 months ago. I got a heads up on it, and I kind of announced it on the show a little bit. And I think that it's only for certain books. Like, I don't think that all values from GoCollect are being loaded in, but it might be like the hot books or something. Is that right?
My understanding from Alwyn is it's going to be roughly 20% of the catalog is going to be loaded in. And so, yeah, it's basically going to deal with your most popular, the most graded books are going to be on there. The ones that are moving the most, that kind of thing. Like I say, it's one of those things where I was talking with a friend of mine. We were out hunting today before we did the podcast, and I know Todd was at a con today.
Hunting animals or comics?
No, comics. Yeah, man, it's not in season for me to be hunting anything around here in the Ozarks.
Okay.
but you know, later this fall that might be something. Anyway, that's beside the point. We're out hunting comic books, and there are two apps that I think if you're hunting comic books, you have to have on your phone. One is an app that lets you know what you already have in your collection. So for me, that's CLZ. The other one is I'm a huge fan of Key Collector, and Todd is too. And that's another guy that we have a relationship with is Nick at Key Collector. He's been on the show. Todd, is it twice or three times that Nick's been on?
Nick is welcome, just like Reggie is welcome anytime.
Open invite.
I think he's been on like 3 times, and the best thing about Nick is he usually shuts John up because John likes to talk a lot, and Nick likes to talk a lot. So there's like a little bit of a headbutting on who's going to talk more. But sorry, John, but I always enjoy sitting back and watching you guys just duke it out.
I love Nick because he's not shy to give an opinion. Like that cat will, and you know, very rarely does he have to eat crow because he know before he opens his mouth he's done his research. But if he does have to eat crow, he will. You know what I mean? Like, but I've seen stuff on the spec deck that 6 months before anybody else is showing up on it, and whenever you've got places like, I don't want to say they're competitors, but they kind of are, like CBSI, referencing Key Collector app in their YouTube videos and stuff like that. I'm like, dude's doing something right.
Yeah. And I would agree with you. I think that I'm a big fan of Key Collector app, and I've been using it, oh man, for probably at least a year and a half, I would guess. And it's super helpful when you are out there hunting for comics, right? To just be able to very quickly reference it and see what's the significance of a book. Because honestly, a memory only goes so far, right? And if it's not, like, there are many Amazing Spider-Man books I know. As soon as I see them, I know what's in that book. But there are so many other books that I'm not as familiar with, the titles, certainly not the keys. And even if you see them, you're still not quite always remembering the details. And so Key Collector app is great. And I think what's great about Key Collector app for you, CLZ, and then GoCollect is you don't have to pretend to like these things. You don't have to make stuff up when you're working with them professionally, because you actually use them beforehand. And I think that's one of the great things. Like, I was sponsored by BCW for a while. For most of my comic book collecting, I didn't know that anybody else made a bag and board that was not BCW, right? That's how long I've been messing with them. I mean, even before I knew what BCW was, I still knew what BCW was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then when you start to work with people professionally, it only makes sense to go with the brands and the companies that you are most familiar with. It is the most organic thing you can possibly do.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and like you say, it's authentic. We believe in that product well before there was any kind of endorsement made. it was basically a free endorsement of saying, hey dude, this is what we're using, this is what we love, we're doing this.
Yep.
And then your endorsement also is adding value back to them, and it's a great, at that point, it's a great relationship, because and like you say, we were doing CLZ for a year and a half or so, just an informal, hey, give our members a discount, and then we're approached and said, hey, you guys, your group is somebody we want to really, really support. And that was awesome of them to reach out to us that way. But then, like with Key Collector, the other thing I love about Nick too is he's more than willing to reach out to the community and ask the community, hey, help me improve the product that I'm giving to you guys. If you see something happening, I'm going to note it, but not only am I going to note it, I'm going to credit you with bringing it to my attention. I know that that's happened with several things too. And like you said, memory only goes so far. You can't be an expert on every single thing. Like a group of almost 18,000 people at this point on our Facebook page. We have guys who love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Amazing Spider-Man. We have guys who only do indie books. We have guys who only do Kickstarters. Guys who do foreign. We have cosplayers, the whole nine, and it's just something where, like you say, can't be an expert on everything, but with that strong of a community,
yep.
and with the information, like, and I've heard you say this in your videos too, you're not going to withhold information from people. That's not who you are. And I think that is how you build a community, is you have the information, you share it, you
yep.
use the tools that you're given,
yep.
and it makes everything stronger.
I have a lot of unofficial reporters out there, right? My channel has grown tremendously over like the last year. And there are a lot of guys that as soon as they hear about something, as soon as they see something, they believe something's in the water. These guys send me a message. Hey, here's what I just saw. Here's a link. Hey, I was in a comic shop. I heard this. I think I just saw that. And it's fantastic because I can't be everywhere at once, but I have a lot of people that are a lot of places all the time. And they are constantly feeding information back to me. And that's between that and me always reading the comments that are left on my videos, I get so much information from the community itself, right? Because they are pouring that in, I'm reading it, I'm noodling it, and out comes a video in response to the things that I've heard and read. It is a fantastic way to build a community. And it's like, it's not like I'm going on and I'm like, every idea is my idea. Because, there a lot of the ideas, a lot of the videos are inspired by subscribers. And I have fantastic relationships with many of the subscribers, and I'm very thankful for that.
Right on. Yeah, man. I mean, it really is, and it does speak to the community. I know you just celebrated your 5,000th subscriber too here recently, which is that's a big milestone.
Congratulations, man.
I mean, we are we're building. We haven't been around as long as you have and stuff, and we're trying to find a way to help migrate some of the folks that are on Facebook over to YouTube with us, which is something that, it's just like anything else. Content is king. If you're providing great content, people will find you eventually, and when they do, the payoff is there. It's rewarding for people to recognize it at that point. So
let me interrupt you for a second here, because Reggie's got 5,000 followers right now, right? And so I wrote a comic book, and I was at a comic book show today with my comic book at a table, and I had a lot of kids come over and just kind of check things out, right? And I kind of just tried to tell them, what I'm doing, and that you could do it too, you know? I mean, I'm an ordinary guy that just sat down, wrote a comic book, and found an artist. So you're a success. And actually, I had another kid come over and say he's got his own YouTube channel and everything, right? And it's fun to see that, right? And so you have a successful YouTube channel. Can you provide some advice for anybody that might be watching this on how do you make a successful YouTube channel? How do the kids today make successful YouTube channels? What are your thoughts?
No, it's a great question, and like you just expressed, I'm just a guy with a comic book collection and a video camera. I mean, I started out recording videos in my kitchen with my daughter's bedroom like 6 feet from me. So if you watch some of my earlier videos, my voice is always low because I don't want to wake the kid up, you know? But I started out just making videos to connect with other people that were passionate about comics. And I don't think that excitement has ever left me. I think it's the same amount of enthusiasm then that it is now. I think that I've always spoken with my authentic voice. I am who I am, right? Part of it is when the camera goes on, I want to have people feel my energy and my excitement for whatever it is that I'm talking about. If someone's having a bad day, I want them to turn the camera on and be able to learn a little something and have some fun. No one, in my opinion, wants to see gloom and doom, right? So I turn the camera on, I'm having fun, I'm smiling, I'm engaging, and it's like, let's just talk about comics and have a good time, you know? But I think speaking with your authentic voice is important. And to that point, I think it's important to also have to figure out what is it that you want the channel to be about, right? There are a lot of YouTubers, there's a lot of content out there that gets uploaded every single hour. What is it that makes you different? And for me, it is the positivity, it is the humility, it is the level of entertainment. And what I try to do is to create content that is great for someone that is new to comics, someone that is coming back to comics, as well as an experienced collector. So that gives me a wide range of things to kind of talk about. I have not really pigeonholed myself into only talking about speculation or only talking about golden age books, you know? And so right. I have a mission, if you will, that gives me latitude to do all kinds of content, which kind of sort of reflects who I am as a person. If I want to draw analogies to business because I have an MBA, I can do that. I want to draw analogies to fitness because I'm a bodybuilder, I can do that. I want to draw analogies to parenthood, I can do that. Like, I have latitude. So that's just a couple of things off the top of my head. And then the other is just have some fun, stick with it. Because in my first couple of videos, man, 50 views, 25 views, and they're still posted and they still have 50 views. You know, it's just, but who cares? I'm having fun, man.
Exactly. I post videos on Facebook, and I have guys tell me, like, you know, how do you get these views? And I'm like, dude, I don't even care about the views, man. I'm just having fun.
Having fun.
Exactly.
Two of the best videos Todd has ever done on Facebook. One was his action figure collection with cutout faces of people from our group, and Todd's playing with them, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I had the A-team.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, I had the A-team. I took all my action figures. I cut out faces and I put them on. I taped them onto the to the bodies, and I had the A-team band on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The other one. The other one was Stuck on a Feeling. Again, stills, but an app where you can move the mouths of people in the stills. And I'm going to rat on Todd. It was Todd singing to it with all these people's voices, all the parts.
That's hilarious.
It's amazing.
The voices, so
it's amazing, like amazingly creative, which begs the question: what are we doing with ourselves, Todd? Man, gee willikers, man.
I'm a comic book collector. I used to lift weights a lot, but I'm 42 now, and I've been slacking.
40, brother. I'm 43.
I know. I got to quit smoking and get back to the weightlifting.
I'm in shape. But round is my shape. That's the shape.
It is a shape. It is a shape. There's no denying that round is a shape. You guys are awesome. Yeah, man. I mean, I think the thing is, I think it's so important that people remember that we are talking about funny papers, funny pages, right? If you're not having fun doing this stuff, something's not right. It's like I want to have fun. And yes, there is real money involved, but life is stressful enough. Jobs, stressful enough. Relationships, stressful enough. When I want to read a funny paper, I'm trying to just have some fun. And I kind of keep that in mind when I'm interacting with folks, when I'm making videos. If I mess up, you know what? I messed up. I'm still having fun. Like, I don't like to make mistakes, but if you can't laugh at yourself a little bit, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that,
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, you got to have fun. Everybody knows we don't take ourselves too awful seriously. Lord knows if I took myself too seriously, it would be a very miserable life. But I mean, to me, this is almost like another thing that we've had termed in the group is comic book therapy. Man, sometimes just going out hunting comic books is therapy. Having a comic book hunting buddy or something like that, sitting there digging through long boxes, checking your apps, digging through some more long boxes. It's good. It's enjoyable, and some people that may be the only real form that they actually get out and socialize. For some folks, and like you say, a broad community and audience, and that's just it's priceless to some folks. So,
brother, I will sit here in the room with a stack of bags and boards, and I will zone out and just bag and board, maybe some YouTube on in the background, maybe just me and bags and boards, and just zone out, and it's just, I think everyone outlet, and that's part of the reason why I came back in the comics at the end of 17 into 18 when I stopped competing. My wife was like, you need a hobby because you're going to drive me crazy, and she never complains about it because she knows that I think everyone needs a little something. And for me, making videos where I get to say what I say and bag and board and organize my collection, it's an outlet and everybody needs it.
Right on. I do have one other quick question that came to my mind because this is something we don't shy away from it here, and I know you don't shy away from it on your channel either. The dirty word of speculation and being a speculator. I freely admit I have a collection. I will sell books. I will trade books. And I'll gift books, all of the above. But I think at the end of the day, we all hope that our collection is worth at least as much, if not more, than what we paid for it in the long run. I really believe that, because if that's not kind of at least a small portion of your goal, you're not really collecting. You're really just a reader, and there's nothing wrong with being a reader, but you're not a collector. You're there to, okay, well, hey, I read this book, now I'm going to give it away to somebody, or I'm just going to throw it in a pile and not care about it. With that being said, do you have any specs that you've just like totally missed the boat on, as far as like you thought this is the next big thing, and then all of a sudden you just like, well, I got left holding the bag on this one? I'm sure, I know you've got a couple of success stories too. Everybody's got success stories. Share, if you don't mind sharing a couple of each with us, that would be awesome.
I'm going to have to think about that. Because I don't necessarily think in those terms. And let me explain why. So people talk about spec and they say that it's a bad thing. They hate speculators, right? And what I think people need to recognize is that by and large, we're all speculators, right? Like, the percentage of people that are just pure speculators is probably a very small number. But the percentage of guys and gals that buy 3, 4, 5, 6 copies, right? One for the personal collection, one to kind of do something with, possibly sell. I think there are a lot of us out there that do that. And neither one of those people is bad. Neither one of those groups is bad, right?
Right.
And so I think people need to remember that when they're talking about speculators and eBay sellers, they're talking about us. We are those people, right? And it's like, if we want eBay buyers and sellers to be better, we have to look at the things that we are doing, right? Because we are the community. You're still talking about a very small community of people. And so I think that's just important to kind of remember. So do I speculate? Yes, but I speculate, I think, kind of sort of smartly, right? And here's what I mean. I don't watch CBSI. I don't watch speculator shows because that's not my thing. I think that to some degree or another, that takes me off a track of what my goal is and objective is for my collection. Now, with my collection, if there are things that I think I can anticipate and get ahead of because I'm already interested in that, then I will do those things. So, for example, almost 2 years ago, I started buying up cosmic stuff. Everything related to cosmic, the Gardener, the Beyonder, the In-Betweener, any and everything that was cosmic, the Eternals, I started buying all that stuff up almost 2 years ago. That, to me, was spec, where I believe that the MCU was going to go cosmic, and I'm like, I want to get ahead of that, so I'm going to buy these things now. But I bought them because I was already interested in them. I have been a fan of Thanos and cosmic stuff since I read Thanos Quest in the 90s and got Infinity Watch and all that other stuff that came with Adam Warlock. To me, that's the kind of speculation that I do. I don't necessarily go out and buy baby teeth or dye or monstrous. Some of that other stuff, that's not me. That's not who I am. But do I speculate? Yes, but within the confines of what makes sense for my collection. And so
Right on.
I bought up a lot of books like that haven't necessarily gone up in value. Like Marvel Team Up 55, first appearance of the Gardener, has not gone up $1. Don't care, still read it and enjoyed the story because it has Spider-Man and Adam Warlock on the cover and then Spidey throughout the book. Loved it. If it goes up, great. If it doesn't matter. I picked up some Strange Tale stuff with Eternity and Affinity and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that stuff's gone up in value. Don't care. Love the art. Love the story. I'm good with that.
Right on. And that is really, like you say, that's a way to never ever really consider that whether it goes up or not, it's gravy if it goes up, you know.
Yeah.
I know myself, the other thing that I know that I've heard you say in some of your videos is buying books to flip so that you can afford to buy the next one key in line for your collection.
Yep.
I know a lot of us have done that kind of thing too. I personally will say that one of the books that I really liked, and I know that if I look at it financially, it didn't go anywhere. But one of the books that I really liked was an Adam Hughes cover of Harley and Poison Ivy meet Betty and Veronica, the number 1 issue where they're all standing there in a lineup, and I think it's Betty that's leaning forward saying, "Can somebody call my mom?" You know, it was just to me it was a great cover, and Adam Hughes just killed it. I bought like 10 of those, man, because I just something about it just was perfectly funny and cute and all these things all at the same time. And you know, hey, like you say, if I look at it financially, I probably took a bit of a bath on it because I bought 10 of them. Probably didn't need to buy 10 of them. But on the flip side, if I never sell a single solitary one of them, I probably should have stopped at 4. It would have been okay. But you know, I enjoy the tar out of them, and if I never sell a single solitary one of them, I'm okay with it.
There you go. Brother, I bought 23 copies of The Death of Robin. I had 30 some odd copies of X-Men #1, right, from the 90s. Now, mind you, I've paid chump change for them, right? I cleaned them, I pressed them, and they were all newsstand. I actually made a profit on them. Again, I do a slightly different type of speculation. But at the end of the day, you know, I had people that literally laughed at me. They were like, you bought 90s X-Men, really? And I don't think that they realize that a 9.8 of some of those books can sell for $75. I don't think people realize that, you know, and that's essentially what, and what I was doing was I was doing a fair value FMV from GoCollect for those books. That made the buyer happy. I took those proceeds and I went out and bought some Amazing Spider-Man Silver Age books. That's basically what I did. I kept a stack for myself, right? Each one of those 90s X-Men covers, because I'm a huge fan of Jim Lee, so I kept those. But the rest were sold, and the proceeds were used to buy Silver Age. I turn around, I do a video for the channel. Everybody wins. Everybody wins in that scenario.
Absolutely, absolutely. Content for the channel. You're getting books that you want. I know one an example that I've used of doing that kind of thing is, and I know we've talked about graded and stuff like this. I'm also a fan of like mid-grade books for major keys because they're more affordable, more accessible. So first appearance Ghost Rider in Marvel Spotlight, first Iron Fist, and a newsstand Batman Adventures #12.
Yep.
All of them in mid-low grade. And I pick all of these up for really, really cheap from just the hustle of not just being in the right place at the right time, but going to the places that other people aren't willing to go to get them. And I end up being able to trade those 3 books in on a Batman 181 first appearance of Poison Ivy in a 4.0 CGC. It's all about timing and effort, and that's how you kind of stay on budget.
Well
you know,
said. Well said.
Well, and I know Todd loves the newer issues. That's where Todd and I complement each other. I'm a back issue guy. I love digging through dollar bins. I love doing all that. Todd loves going on New Comic Book Day and picking up a crispy, clean copy, you know, a variant issue here or there, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I love. You know what? Growing up, going on New Comic Book Day was one of the funnest days of my week, and I quit collecting for like 20 years. I went on New Comic Book Day. I think it was like when the whole rebirth thing happened, and that's when I got back into it. And I just love being able to go into the store and pick up the new books. Now, I know most of them are probably going to end up in the dollar bin, so I try to offset, you know, getting like Totally Awesome Hulk 22 and stuff like that to kind of offset it. One question I wanted to ask you, because you're into speculation, and I was sitting at this Comic-Con, and the artist that drew my book he had the first appearance of Amadeus Cho, Amazing Fantasy 15, the second series or whatever, and I have that. I paid $15 for it. I got it graded. It's 9.8. He's got an ungraded copy, and he went on to eBay and said that one sold for like $200 or something. And I was sitting there like, oh my, are you serious? Really? So some of these like newer characters on the speculation, like Riri Williams, Amadeus Cho. I mean, do you see any of these other characters? Are there any of them that really jump out to you from the speculative perspective?
I think that there is always potential for a new character to pop, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I bought Totally Awesome Hulk #22. the first appearance of Amadeus Cho. I bought it at a 9.8 out of a comic shop. And I bought it. Why? Because I started reading Totally Awesome Hulk and thought it was totally awesome. And I was like, I am going to get this. And I migrated from there into, I think I was reading like Weapon H at the time, which I absolutely love, right? You know, for me, it's do these characters have staying power? Who the heck knows, right? I buy the book to enjoy the book. If it goes up in value, great. If it doesn't, that's cool too. Because the reality is that you never know what retcon is going to suddenly make which books hot or which character suddenly popular, right? But if I have a feeling about a book, I'll typically buy 2 copies of it. You know, I'll buy 2 copies of it. I'll bag and board both of them and stuck them in a bin, and I'll let it be that, you know? But whether there's any characters that come to mind right now, I can't think of any that I'm like super crazy about right now. I like the Red Goblin. When the Red Goblin dropped at the end of last year, I was on it because I dug what they were trying to do. Character who knew wasn't going to have staying power, because you can't take 2 great popular characters and combine them into one and make that work, right? So you knew that there was a shelf life. But I really enjoyed it, and I bought a lot of the Red Goblin books and you know, variant covers and all that kind of stuff because I enjoyed it. And now he's about to make his return, and so I'm going to enjoy that one shot that comes out with him as well.
Oh yeah, well, and I mean, if you really think about it too, if it's, we were talking with Bueller about the comic book industry has kind of shifted from when we were kids. You had the rock star artists, McFarlane, Liefeld, and I swore to Jason, sorry, real quick tangent. I swore to my buddy Jason Ingram I was not going to use Rob Liefeld's name tonight, and I got tricked. I tricked myself into doing it. Anyway, Liefeld, yeah, and it's going in the jar. Anyway, but Jim Lee, the rock star artists, we're in an age right now where it's rock star writers. Donnie Cates, Cullen Bunn, you know, some of these guys that Tom King, some of these guys are just Hickman. The list is as long as my arm of guys who and ladies too that are writing really great stories. And I'm with you where all it takes is that one retcon. We're seeing that with the Absolute Carnage series. Yep. Where Donnie Cates is starting to bring back all these callbacks, all of these. Now, if you're brand new to Venom and Carnage and some of that stuff, it's not going to have the same resonance with you as it does. Like I was telling a guy who's trying to get into Maximum or not Maximum Carnage, but Absolute Carnage. Mm-hmm. I was telling him in issue number 1, when Cletus Cassidy pushes Eddie Brock into the subway, that's a callback to an old web of Spider-Man where Eddie Brock does that to Spider-Man. And he had no idea that that's what was going on there. And I'm like, literally almost every other page Donnie Cates is writing here is a callback to something that's happened in Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage's history. I said, it's amazing that he's writing it so well. And then you see all these other series drop that are callbacks to, you know, all these mini series that were done for Venom. It's like, man, that's top notch. I love that as an old school Venom guy, you know.
And a lot of people would say that that's maybe bad writing to some degree or another. You know, they would say come up with some original stuff. But I think what's really great about like Donnie Cates and Jonathan Hickman as 2 examples is that both of them are phenomenal writers who are also comic book fans. And what they are doing is not coming in saying, I'm going to clean the slate and I'm just going to write what I want to write. What they are doing is they are, as fans of these characters and of these stories, they are telling a new story by pulling on all of these threads that were out there over time, and they're using them to tell a new and different and creative story. That is really good writing. It's super easy to be like, I'm gonna write a story that has nothing to do with anything else out there. It's a whole nother thing to write one that is using threads over decades in some cases. Like the stuff that Jonathan Hickman is doing with Moira McTaggart, no one saw that coming. No one. It is so incredibly well done. And I think for me, I love great covers and great art. I love it. But I'm also reading the words, and my imagination is pretty good. But when I can read a really good story and see some great artwork, it's a perfect coming together of just two great talents. You know what I'm saying? When you have a phenomenal writer and a phenomenal artist that are coming together, they can create some magic. And so I feel like the time that we're in right now is a really incredible time.
Absolutely, almost a second golden age, honestly, of comics. If you really stop to think about it, I don't know what they will end up calling this age other than the modern age, but that's my feeling on it, is a second golden age, really.
The millennial age. I don't know.
No, we can't give a nod to millennials. No, we can't do that.
Yeah. All right, so we've taken enough of Reggie's time here, John, and I think we should do some final thoughts to wrap this one up. So,
right on.
John, why don't you start it out? And
yeah, man. Well, I will say it has been an absolute pleasure to have Reggie on. This conversation has gone as well as any that we've had, and I love that it's conversation, man. That's what we do around here. And so, honestly, my final thought is Reggie, like Todd said before, open invite. You message me, you want to record, we'll make time, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time with us tonight.
Thank you.
And I'll pitch it to you, man. Final thoughts on anything. It can be show related, it can be out of left field. You want to go Neil Adams on us and start talking political, feel free, whatever floats your boat, man.
So I haven't seen that video from Bueller yet. What I will say is that I don't appear on a lot of channels, and it's more that I don't have a whole lot of time to do things. Like if I'm not shooting my own videos, I'm trying to spend time with my family and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can't say that you're a member of the comic book community and not show up to support the comic book community in some way, shape, or form, you know? And so I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, giving me an opportunity to come here on the show. I've had a lot of fun, and I know we were supposed to do like a short one, but I also am a fan of, I can't do much in a little bit of time. So I'm glad that we were able to have such a, I guess, an energized and dynamic conversation. I want to thank you guys for making it so easy. And again, thank you for having me on. And if folks don't know anything about me, I definitely want to encourage them to check me out on the Regie Collects channel on YouTube.
Absolutely. Follow him at Regie Collects on Instagram as well, guys. I know we're pubbing all sorts of social medias around here. Todd, wrap us up, man.
All right, man. This was so awesome, Reggie. I feel the best thing about the comic book community is, I mean, even though we may never meet, or we're in different places, we all feel like brothers, or brothers and sisters, you know, because there's, and I mean, I feel that talking to you. I had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, everybody, collect comics, be friends, be cool with each other, and we're gonna wrap this one up. Peace out, everybody.
Be good or be good at it.
All right, take it easy, guys.